Story time about how my stepdad caught me sending nudes to my stepbrother. Disclaimer is not my story time was sending me on Instagram. Now that my soon-to-be stepbrother was dating my best friend, I had to pretend to hate him in order not to show that I loved him. I was infatuated and in love. Also, we were super compatible. We played the same exact sports, both loved jet skiing, we were both competitive swimmers. After about a year of him dating my best friend, he broke up with her. At this point, I knew that he also liked me too. There were too many signs for me to ignore, but we would both make the effort to hate each other. We would even start to fight in front of my best friend. It was just easier that way. I also had a boyfriend at the time, but I really didn't love him, so I decided to break up with him too. Here's some context. School was pretty small. School would throw a barbecue for 4th of July, and all the parents and students were invited. This is the crazy part. My mom hit it off with his dad. They were inseparable. He even asked her out on a date by the end of the barbecue, and they made it official 2 weeks later when he asked her to be his girlfriend. My mom was dating my crush's dad. Part 3 is up. Story time about how my stepdad caught me sending nudes to my stepbrother. Disclaimer is not my story time, was sending me on Instagram. Now my mom is dating my crush's dad. They made us spend the weekends together. Remember, at this point, I'm trying not to show that I'm actually in love with this guy. But now our parents are forcing us to hang out. Everything moved really fast with them. They got engaged 2 months later and then married 3 months later. So now my crush was my stepbrother. Oh yeah, and my best friend hated me for it. My mom and I ended up moving into their house. So now I saw him every single day. Can you imagine having to live with your crush? Like him seeing everything about your life? I was constantly embarrassed. And my best friend started making up rumors about me. He started claiming that I was the one with the ED. But after we moved in together, things changed. Started being very sweet to me. Stopped fighting it, and we kissed. Everything was leading up to us doing the dirty. We were both sending each other nudes, and on one occasion, my stepdad caught me. I decided to tell him the truth. My stepbrother and I begged our parents to let us be together. Eventually, they agreed. We're both 18 now, and we're engaged. We're getting married next summer. True love is true love.
When my daughter was born, she had dark skin and looked like her parents could be of African descent. My husband was furious and accused me of cheating and left right then and there. He told everyone on both sides of the family what happened and wanted a divorce. Then his friends and families all called me to say how upset they were and called me really nasty names. My mother was by my side the entire time as I kept professing my innocence. He refused to pick me up from the hospital, threw myself out on the lawn and changed the locks. When my sister called to get the baby stuff, he texted her a picture of a bare nursery room and said he got rid of everything. He even destroyed my art studio. Eventually, he agreed to do a paternity test and he was 100% the father. No one could believe this, so he did it again and he was the dad. One of his cousins did the ancestry thing and found out there was 30% of African in their family. This made Jim's paternal great-grandmother admit to having an affair around the same time Jim's grandfather was born, and because he could pass as hers, she just assumed her husband was the father. Since then, he's been reaching out and everyone has come to apologize. I told him I needed time and he asked to see the baby and I let him, but I'm too afraid to physically hand her to him. I've never cheated and have been 100% innocent all this time.
Story time! Make sure to grab a snack, sit back, and relax because this one is a crazy story. So I had a best friend in 7th grade until about my junior year in high school, and me and her did just about everything together and we were always hanging out. We'll go ahead and call her Chloe. So Chloe always had the nicest things. She had really pretty clothes. She had the newest cell phones all the time. And overall, she was just very spoiled, right? And one of the craziest things that was given to her was a car at 14 years old. Yes, she was very young with a brand new car, but her stepdad taught her how to drive. So now the more I would hang out with Chloe, the more I began to realize that she treated her stepdad really, really, really bad. She would call him stupid in front of everybody. It didn't matter who was there. And I also noticed that she would yell at him really bad. It was almost to the point where she was screaming. But besides all of that, me and Chloe did end up being really close friends. And because we were really close friends, we would tell each other all of our secrets. And I remember this one time when we were hanging out, she ended up telling me one of her secrets. Just a trigger warning because it's kind of bad. Her biggest secret was that she would do the you-know-what with her stepdad in order to...
Story time about how my boyfriend gave me sleeping pills before his boys' night out. I had been dating my boyfriend for a year and we always had a pretty trusting relationship. One weekend, he was going to have a boys' night out with his friends and I was going to stay home. However, earlier in the day, we had gone into an argument about how he never checks his phone while he's out or replies to my text to check in. He said he shouldn't have to check in with me while he's out and I disagreed because I just want to make sure that he's okay. Fast forward to later that night when he's getting ready, I told him that even though we're fighting, I still expect him to keep in touch with me. He agrees this time without putting up a fight and asks me if I want to have a drink with him before he goes. He makes us some cocktails and we drink them together while we wait for his friends to come pick him up. When his friends get there, he kisses me goodbye and leaves. Not even half an hour later, I'm knocked out cold. I remember waking up once just for a second to use the bathroom but then knocking out again. In the morning when I woke up, he was asleep next to me and I was really confused as to why I slept so much when I wasn't even tired. When my boyfriend woke up, he mentioned how nice it was that I hadn't messaged him and how I must have slept through the night after those cocktails. This raised some red flags and I quickly questioned him about what was in the cocktails. At first, he called me crazy and told me that he didn't do anything to them. However, after about 20 minutes of accusing him, he finally confessed.
This is why you should always keep pictures of your parents. A little girl named Olivia, who lived a very quiet life, decided to check her homework assignments that were posted online. The teacher posted that they needed to write down their favorite memory with their family as well as bring a photograph. Olivia then writes about how her and her mom play dolls every night in the basement before bed and that she has a lot of fun doing so. She finishes her paragraph and then looks in her dad's drawer for a photograph of mom. She only found pictures of her mom from high school but decided to use it anyway. Olivia goes to bed and wakes up the next morning. Once she arrives at school, the teacher then says, "Let's start presenting our project." Then the teacher called Olivia's name to present. Olivia then begins to read about how her and her mom play dolls every night and then pulls out the photograph. As soon as Olivia pulled out the photograph, her teacher's face goes numb. She then asks Olivia if she can take a closer look at the photograph. She then recognized her mom as one of her previous students. Then the teacher asks, "Where did you get this photo?" Olivia says, "My dad keeps them in his drawer." The teacher, shocked, sits down Olivia and pulls out an old newspaper. The newspaper headline, "Local high school teen murdered, boyfriend gone missing." The teacher then looks at Olivia and says, "Your mom has been dead for 14 years.
Guys, while I was filming these nails, an unknown number started phoning me and something within me said, "Just answer." So I answered and this guy's like, "Hi, this is Tony from TK Maxx." And I was like, "TK Maxx? Why would TK Maxx be phoning me? Like, what? This must be a scam. Like, I'm going to ban you up for trying to scam me." And then this guy was like, "No, actually, sorry, we know you're a regular online customer and we're looking to see how we can improve our service because you've not placed an order in a while." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay, sorry about that. I thought you were trying to scam me." So I gave him a suggestion and he said, "That is an amazing suggestion. Like, that is so good. I'm going to send you a gift voucher." And I was like, "Okay." No, they've sent me a £50 gift voucher to spend online or in store. I'm so buzzing with that.
My husband convinced me to get a job at his company, hoping it would help him stop cheating. So my husband, 36 male, and I, 35 female, are high school sweethearts. We got pregnant in high school, dated for a few years after we had our baby, and we decided we did want to get married. Through every single up and down, we were there for one another. I honestly didn't think we could have a more perfect relationship. It's something I have been so proud about most of my life. Almost 4 months ago, my husband asked me to get a job at his company. Before this, I had just been working part-time jobs because we didn't really need the money since we weren't financially responsible for a child anymore. However, we agreed the extra money would be lovely to go towards our family trip funds, something we both and our son add to as often as possible. Our hope being to take a family vacation across Europe for a few months. And we are trying to make it happen sooner than later because our son is recently married. We want them to be able to still go on one trip without worrying about a new baby. Once I got the job, I thought it was such a great decision. I was making quite a bit of extra money and seeing my husband so much more. Well, a couple of weeks ago, one of his coworkers approached me and asked how I could be so cool with the ongoing situation. I had no idea what she was talking about.
Story time! So this situation happened when me and my friend group had just started 7th grade. And one of my friends in the group had already gotten detention for not finishing her homework. And keep in mind that this was a very strict teacher, so no one liked him. We'll call him Mr. Brown. So when the class found out that Mr. Brown gave Sophie detention for not finishing her homework, everyone thought that it was really unfair. A couple weeks go by and Sophie hated the teacher. And I'm pretty sure he hated all of us too. So then this one day, me, Sophie, and the rest of the group decided that we were tired of going to Mr. Brown's class just to get yelled at, so we decided that we were going to skip his class for that day. At the end of the period, we were walking to our next classes when we ran into Mr. Brown. He called us and pulled us aside and he asked us where we were and why we weren't in his class today. We told him that we had all gone to the office, but he didn't believe us, so he gave all of us detention except for Sophie. In front of all of us, he told her to meet up with him after school and that she was going to spend detention in his class while we had it in a different class across the school.
Watch me do my crusty dusty nails while I tell you a story time. Before I get into the story time, I want to let you know that I'm launching this Easter bundle March 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. It includes these 5 beautiful pastel colors I'll be using throughout this video. So with that being said, let's get into the story time. As you all know, I used to take clients about 2 years ago. I had this one client, let's name her Bella. Bella would always ask me if she can film the whole process of me doing her nails, and of course I had no problem with that. She told me it was for her YouTube channel that she's gonna start soon. Me being supportive, I told her to record whenever, like I don't care. So one day Bella asked me if she can record my nail room, and of course I said sure. I thought it would be a cute clip in the video. I didn't really think much of it, but then I checked Bella's story like a week later. Bella posted that she's starting to do nails, and on her next story, she posts her nail room, which looks identical to mine. The funny thing is, she never started that YouTube channel and she was just recording to copy everything I have. Should I be flattered or is that creepy?
This is how I found out my dad was following me on OnlyFans. Disclaimer, it's not my story time, it's on Instagram. My mom and dad had me when they were really young. My mom was 17 and my dad was 19. For some reason, my mom doesn't like talking about him, so I never really found out exactly how they broke up. All I know is that they stayed together until I was 5 years old. Something really bad happened and then my mom kicked him out of the house. Like I said, I don't even know what happened. I was 12 years old. old, he begged my mom to come back, and she let him live in the apartment we had. But he's pretty much a deadbeat. He didn't help my mom pay for the bills. He didn't even want to get a job. He even went as far as begging my mom to become a stripper. He said that she would make way more money than the job she had. She was a secretary at the time. When I was 15, he left our house again. Never got a bad feeling from him when he was living with us though. With a lot of hard work, my mom was able to put me through college. I graduated and I got a really good job. I bought my mom and me a house and we moved in together. Then COVID happened and I lost my job. Friends suggested I start OnlyFans and I decided to do it. I started making a lot more money than I ever thought I would. Some months I was making around $20,000. This one guy would send me $1,000 every single week in exchange for pictures. Part 2 is up. This is how I found out my dad was following me on OnlyFans. Disclaimer is not my story time, it's on my Instagram. So this one guy started sending me $1,000 every single week. In exchange, I would send him private photos. Everything was totally fine until he started asking me questions. He would ask me things like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite dessert? Because it's OnlyFans, I never really answered honestly. But then one day he told me, you love The Little Mermaid, don't you? And I was like, what? Because The Little Mermaid was my favorite movie as a kid. Watched it at least 3 times a week when I was a kid. First I thought it was a cousin playing a joke on me, so I decided to block them. The next day, I get another message. This one says, I remember how you used to love hot dogs. That's when I really shit myself. Because my dad and I would make hot dogs every single Friday. It was our thing together. Like I said, he was a deadbeat, so he couldn't afford anything more than cheap hot dogs. And that's when he said, I have a confession. And before I could reply, he said, I'm your dad. I felt so disgusted. I blocked him and then blocked him from my cell phone too. That's when he sends me a long text message explaining why he signed up to my OnlyFans. He said that he was just trying to get to know me, that all he really wanted was to get me back as his daughter. Then why ask for nudes? Part 3 is up. This is how I found out my dad was following me on OnlyFans. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. As soon as I read his long text message about why he signed up, I once again blocked him. 20 minutes later, there's a knock on my door. Yep, it's my fucking father. Started knocking on the door so hard my neighbors came out, called 911 and they came within a minute. I live in an area where there aren't too many people, so my house is really easy to find. Saw my dad walk to the backyard and try to get in through the back. That's when a cop stopped him and asked him what he was doing. Then he told the cop that I had invited him over. Then the cop comes to my door and asked me if I had invited him. I told him I didn't. Then I told the cop about OnlyFans. My dad was so ashamed he actually denied it. But of course I had all the receipts. I showed the cop my phone and the cop told him that he needed to leave me alone. He left my house and I didn't have the heart to tell my mom. But later that night, I see another person sign up to my OnlyFans. Turns out it was my dad again. This time he was offering me $3,000 for more pictures. And he confessed that he couldn't help but love me as a woman because I didn't grow up with him. Excuse me, sir? You raised me for half of my childhood. Wanted to get a restraining order, but the judge says it's not that easy. So now I'm considering closing my OnlyFans. I don't think it's fair though.
If anyone's wanting to know how to get revenge on someone who spread rumors about you, listen to this story and it may come in handy. So I had a friend that we can call Miranda who was obsessed with me. I was genuinely friends with her, but she would never give me a break. I could not get a breather from her at any point in time. Everywhere I went, she went. And this girl would actually get so upset with me anytime I would go over to another friend's house. I knew she was really insecure and just trying to get attention, so I tried to be patient with her. However, one day I just could not take it anymore. I got into a massive fight with her over how overprotective she is. I literally said, you are a stage 5 clinger. And in response, this girl ended up joining my basketball and softball team, which I've been on for forever. She told her mom that I was bullying her, which was a complete lie, but then her mom went to the coaches. She got me kicked off the team and then continued to spread rumors about me. I ended up losing my best friends and even my boyfriend over the rumors that she spread about me. So that's when I decided to get revenge. So I decided that I was going to send her over an apology gift with makeup in it, which was a mix of drugstore items and poison.